Good morning. Oh, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
I hit the wrong button. It's a Monday morning at 8 a.m. That's for sure.
It is indeed. It is indeed. And I know you had a busy weekend. You were camping with family, and who tries not to work that much on the weekends, worked the entire weekend. So here we are.
And usually I do. So I went camping, came back Friday, and then my brother came because he has his boys for the summer, and he can't fly them because I guess going from Florida to Chicago, you have to quarantine. So there'd be no way that he could fly back. So he was afraid, he was just flying the boys up and then going to turn around and fly back. And they're like, no, like you're from Florida going to Chicago.
Wow.
So you have to sign something, and they take all your information apparently if you're coming from one of those bad states. So my house is like right in the middle between.
Oh, so he drove down and stayed with you.
They drive and they meet up, and then he'll stay the night. So it's good for the kids to be able to see each other for a night, or whatever. They just played on the VR all night. I think the kids just stayed up all night, and then when my brother woke up, it's like, okay, let's go. Okay.
Get in the car.
Yeah. Okay. I guess we'll go. See you later. It was like 6 a.m. I think some of them were still awake. I think one had just gone to sleep at like 5.
Oh, wow.
So they'll be sleeping the whole way home, I'm sure.
Right. Oh my gosh. Wow.
That worked out. So that was nice to kind of take a break. And I saw from, our winds post, it was kind of the same way that some people just were able to kind of decompress a little bit.
Yep.
It's so crazy out there.
It is. It's super crazy out there. It's still, listings are coming on. There's still a shortage of listings. There's still a ton of buyers. So if something's priced right, it's really going super quick, highest and best. And it's funny, this weekend I have some, they were buyers probably 5 years ago and then sellers 2 years ago and moved to Atlanta and then hated it in Atlanta. And a job opened up back down here. So they're back down here, and they called and they said, we're ready to look. So we had about 4 houses to see. And then during that, so that was on Friday, we were going back and forth about what we were going to see. And a new one came on Friday that we were going to see on Sunday. And by Saturday, it had multiple offers. So, excuse me. So we ended up seeing the 4 that had been on the market for a while. And here's the thing. When they're on the market for a while, there's usually something, whether it's overpriced. Well, it's always overpriced, actually. I mean, the condition wasn't great for the price that they had it listed at. So, of all the ones that we saw, they weren't excited about any of them because it was kind of, I hate to say the junk, but the junk, So what we're going to talk about today was how to write a good offer from the buyer's standpoint, especially when you're in a situation where the minute it comes on, it's going to go quick. The price is right, and it looks great. So here's some basic stuff that we all already know, which is make sure your buyers are pre-qualified. But even better yet, if you use a lender that does a pre-approval, then go ahead and ask your buyers and suggest to the lender that they do that. And the pre-approval would be them submitting all of their docs in advance.
So it's not word of mouth.
Correct. Correct. We're not just relying on what the buyer is saying to be true. The lender is really looking at all the documents to making sure that what they made was what they made, and that their bank statements, there's no red flags that they see. So I think that's the first step. Then you want to make sure that your offer is realistic. And that just seems to be somewhat of a hurdle if you have a buyer that's new to this market, right? So they haven't lost to a house yet.
Or it's not even if they're new to the market, because Leo is a low buyer. I'm like a CarMax. What's the price? Let me go. I'll be there in an hour. Get the paperwork ready. Like, that's me, because I don't want to haggle. Leo likes to haggle on everything. So whether he's buying something on Craigslist to writing offers, I knew not to get excited when we were looking at property because he wanted to lowball at least 20,000 under just because he's a haggler. Like
just
that.
because he wants to, and he wants to feel like he's made a deal and he's negotiated.
And I kept saying, honey, they're not even putting pictures of the house. They're using Google Earth because they're gone in a day. Like that, you can't do that. So I definitely knew not to get excited. I felt bad because I have one of these people who just don't get it. So I'm not getting excited because we're going to have to go through, lose at least 5 deals. And it wasn't until we were like at crunch time, like, we're going to be homeless because we're closing on our house and we have nowhere to live. Like we're going to try to fit 200-pound plus dogs and family in this little camper. And that's where we're going to be living because you won't get realistic. So I can imagine I can't even reel in my husband, and he knows like I should kind of know what I'm talking about.
Right.
It's just who he is. Like he doesn't.
Well, and I think that's a great point because some people, they just learn, they figure it out after they've lost 1 or 2, but then you do have that personality that wants to make a deal. And so then do you hang in there with them through deal after deal that they don't get, or do you sever the relationship because this may not be going anywhere? So
it's hard because then it's like it's your fault.
Right.
If you don't know how to negotiate. And it's like, no, you're just being an idiot. And I'm telling you that up front. Like,
right. Especially if you're, what I've been trying to tell my buyers and even my sellers when I put a listing on that I know will go quickly, is even to tell the buyers that are looking, they'll ask, do you have offers? Do you have offers? Do you have offers? And I'll say, oh, not yet. But we have, in one case, we had 8 showings before noon on a Saturday. For a new listing. And it's like, please just put your best foot forward from the beginning, because I don't know if my seller is going to do highest and best. They may just pick the one that they like. So encouraging your buyers to be realistic if they can, or to put their best foot forward from the get-go. And so with that, there's a lot of things that go into the offer that is putting your best foot forward. So, don't ask for things that aren't included. So if the washer and dryer isn't included, don't ask for it because you're not going to get it. Maybe don't ask for a home warranty again, because that just reduces the net to the seller. And this is specifically about when you're trying to put your best foot forward and you're trying to win a deal. I mean, in a different market, you can do all of those things. But in this market, not so much. And another thing, don't request seller concessions unless you need them. I had a deal recently where the buyers were putting down 20% on a conventional loan and they were asking for closing costs, and then trying to explain that to a seller. And my only explanation for that is they may probably only have 20% and they don't want PMI. So they're asking you for closing costs. But sellers don't like that. Sellers really have a hard time wrapping their head around closing costs. So and I know it's common and normal in FHA and VA, but if you can get away with not doing it, it's going to just make your offer that much better, especially now where we're going above asking price. Do you have to go super high above asking price to accommodate the closing costs? And then is everybody worried about an appraisal? So that's another reason why a seller may not accept an offer, because you're worried about the appraisal and we've already driven the price too high above the list price. So if you can stay away from that with the closing costs. And another is earnest money deposit. I've never been huge into large amounts of earnest money, mainly because 99% of the time, if the buyer either cancels for their inspection or they don't get their loan, they're getting that money back. So the earnest money doesn't mean a lot. But in an effort to make your offer stronger, especially if your buyer is putting 20% down, then that is more appealing to a seller because it just makes the buyer look stronger. It shows the seller that the buyer does have that money in the bank. One of the things that I've been doing is put escrow at first, and then once you do the home inspection and you're clearing the home inspection, put additional escrow down. I don't know, how is escrow up in Tennessee, where do they do low amounts like we do here?
I mean, I only know from when when we put money down, and I don't know. I mean, I think it was just still pretty standard, even though we were competing, I still only did 1,000. But
Okay.
I mean, it could be totally different now. I think we felt we had a strong because it was cash,
Right.
even though we knew, like, we realized cash was really the only way we were going to be able to get, because like, you can't even have like, surveys were 2 months out. So if you were getting financing, I don't even know that it was different, because it wasn't like,
Gotcha.
I don't know, like, it was weird. So there was no survey, which that was a little nerve-wracking, especially once we realized all of the, what the county records show versus what was actually going on was a little different. And the people who had plotted out this whole subdivision they're kind of crooks. So that was just a little weird. But,
gotcha.
I mean, we ordered the survey as soon as, we got the offer, but yeah, it was 2 months later that they came out, just so I would have one, because we needed to put a fence and stuff. And then the survey was just like a piece of paper that looked like what the county records. It wasn't like the survey that, I don't know, it was totally different. But yeah, I think we just realized we were going to have to do a cash offer, and we had to find a house that was vacant. So it was.
Well, right, because you needed to get in quickly too.
Right.
Well, so that's the other thing. So we're seeing a lot of home to sell contingencies, because I mean, I'll tell you, I have buyers right now. They're looking, and they'll be cash once we sell their house, but we haven't even listed their house. And we went to look at a house this weekend for them, and they didn't like the house. But I was like, while we were there, I said, all right, on Monday, we're getting together. We're doing the listing paperwork. We'll set up the photos. I said, even if we're not ready to list until we find something, I need to be ready to push the button on the listing to make it go live as soon as you do find something. Because if we have a home to sell contingency, and then I say to the listing agent, well, we need to get it listed, and I need the photographer, so that'll be 5 days. They're not going to consider that. And hopefully, my word or my reputation on, I know these buyers, I know this house, I sold it to them, it'll go quickly, we're going to price it right, will be good enough to let them know that. But we're seeing a lot of home to sell contingencies, especially if the seller or buyer rather, or both, is moving within Brevard County, because they don't want to put their house under contract till they have someplace to go.
Right. So it's got to be hard when you have to sell your house to buy a house. And that's when we realized this is just going to get crazy. So we just did cash. And to us, it was just because we lowballed so many offers, like, we ran out of time. So it's like, just find a place. I can't even, because it's not even, I thought, well, we'll just rent. Well, nobody wants to rent to somebody who has two,
Right.
I have got 2 dogs. They're 150 pounds each, and they just kind of look at you cross-eyed like, yeah, that's not happening. So I'm like, I don't know. I just felt like we were kind of stuck. But
yeah,
I mean, I can't imagine. That's so stressful on all parties, I think.
Right.
And then you go over asking, well, if it doesn't appraise, are they still going to plan on buying? Are they going to bring in the difference?
Right. There's that too, which can be a whole thing. So with contingencies, you just want to make sure your contingencies are very tight. I had a deal recently with a buyer. The house was in Palm Bay. Now, who would have thought 2-bedroom, 1-bath would have multiple offers and gone in the first day? 2-bedroom, 1-bath, $145,000 in Palm Bay. But it was not updated, but cute and well maintained. And it had 7 offers, and my buyer was the only cash offer. Now, she would not go above list. She said, there were other houses where she did because she felt like it was worth it. And in this one, she didn't feel like it was worth it. So we did full price, close whenever the seller wanted to close, honestly. Like, we would have closed in 2 weeks, but the seller wanted 6 weeks. And we did a 3-day inspection only because the water wasn't on, and we wanted the water turned on so that
wow.
No, I'm sorry. It wasn't, the water wasn't on. All she wanted to do was a WDO. That's what it was. And I needed to get, but what I did before I set a 3-day inspection, and I'm doing this also with home inspectors. So when I have the buyer, I have a list of home inspectors that I recommend. But when we get to that part of the contract, I say, yeah, we're going to make an offer. Do you want to call the home inspectors? Or do you want me to call the home inspectors? These are the order in which I normally call them, and see if they're available to do it. And then it's a toss up. Some will say, no, I want to do it. And some will say, you do it. And if I say you do it, I get that from them in writing, in an email. So, and then I will call the inspector or email the inspector while we're working on the offer. How soon can you get out there? So with the WDO, I texted my guy and I said, how soon can you get out there? And he said, I'll be there. I could be there by Tuesday. And I was like, okay, good. We can do 3 days for inspection. So you can tighten up your inspection periods if you can encourage your buyer to kind of pre-book the inspection, so to speak, because we're hearing from inspectors as well. They're saying, please ask for 15 days because they're booked so
Right.
solid. And nobody wants to do a deal with 15 days.
Right. I know for us, it was 10 days. And it's like, I don't know anything up here. So I'm just, give me a list of names. Let me try to see who can get out there.
Get out here the quickest, and I had an agent in the office last week I think she asked me on Wednesday, my inspector can't go till Tuesday. Who do you use? And I was like, I can give you my list of names, but I can guarantee you none of them will be out there before Tuesday. This was on Wednesday of the week before. I mean, I would say, I was like, book it, So make sure you're doing, if you can, tight inspection periods so that your when you make your offer, you're going to meet the deadline. Call the inspector or have the buyers call the inspector in advance if you can. That led me to something else. Make sure they're ready to go and they know that they need to be ready to go with their lender as well. If it's a lender deal, make sure they realize they have to make loan application in 5 days. Don't let them drag their feet on that. Because again, and part of making a buyer's really good deal, I believe is part of it is your reputation, or do you know this other agent, and do they know that you get the deal done? Do they know that you make sure your buyer's adhering to timelines? There was, back in the foreclosure days, I remember I would call an agent when I would put an offer in, and I'd be like, it's me, I get it done, I'm not messing around, I mean, and I think that comes into play, honestly, and that's why years ago, I didn't really understand why we would meet and mingle and socialize with other agents, because I was like, well, I don't need them as friends. I don't need to be friends with these people, right?
But now it's definitely coming into play.
It does. If people know who you are and they know that you're, you don't play around and you don't mess around, part of your reputation is part of what helps the buyer get the deal. And I know even with this cash deal that I did, like I said, there were 6 other offers, all financing though, but I knew the listing agent well. And so she knew I wasn't going to play around. She knew that if I said my buyer was going to get it done in 3 days, that was going to happen because I was pre-booking it. Or sometimes I'll even submit the offer and I will say, we've already pre-booked the inspection for Wednesday at 10. So if we make this deal, we're ready to go. Whatever it is, anything you can do to make your buyer's offer look better.
And I know something that was also big, when we kind of went through this before, was having a letter or something from your buyer. So if you have a family, it's such an emotional thing, like for someone to sell. And I think if you have a letter, I mean, obviously if it's an investor and, hey, I'm going to gut your house and tear it apart, maybe not. But if you have a young family and as you kind of grow, you may need to move up and bigger houses, but to know that there's a younger family that was kind of like you, that, I mean, do you think that makes a difference?
I'm seeing that a lot in the real estate chat rooms on Facebook, people asking if they think it makes a difference. So I have 2 good stories about that, actually. So I had a seller, it was about a year ago, and the buyers, the market was different. The buyers lowballed, and they wrote a letter.
Well,
And,
I mean,
well, there you go. Okay, so and my people are very pragmatic. They were like, we don't even want to see the letter. This is a business transaction. We don't care. And I was like, you should really just look at the letter. I mean, but and we ended up agreeing on price, but as throughout the inspection and the buyers were beating them up, and she would bring it up every time about like what jerks they were and how, whatever. So in that case, the letter didn't backfire because we made the deal and we did close. But at the same time, the seller just at every turn was like, oh, they're jerks or whatever, or, would refer to something back in their letter that she didn't like. Now, I did have that recently. I had a house in Suntree. I think so. Now my latest strategy has been to put the house on the market at 5 o'clock at night, right? And then to have showings the next day. So I block the showings on showing time for that night. And so now the showings start the next day. So I've done that with a couple of listings recently, and it's worked well. So this particular house, I put it on Thursday, I think at 5. Oh, no. Friday at 5. Before noon, we already had, before it was even shown, I had 2 agents call me and ask if I had offers yet and what I was going to do if I had multiple offers. My standard answer is, I don't know. I'm going to advise the seller and then they'll decide. They may not want highest and best. So I would put your best foot forward now. The first offer came in $25,000 above list. Then the second offer came in with an escalation clause. Third offer came, and both of those offers had letters. And then there was a third offer and a fourth offer, which were there were 2 that were below actually the list price. So with these 2, they were both letters, and my seller was very emotional. He was in his 70s. This was supposed to be his final house with his wife. And she passed away a year after they moved in. And that was 20 years ago, and he's still emotional about it. So we're sitting at his dining room table, right? We're sitting at his dining room table, and I'm reading him the letters. Both submitted a picture with their letter. Mm-hmm. So with one, it was a single woman, disabled vet and her big poodle, and the other was grandma and grandpa with their 3 grandchildren. So we read all the
heartstrings on that one.
Well, I know it was tough, So what was interesting is he felt like the grandma, grandpa with the grandchildren, they would be more difficult with inspections, etc., because was his feeling. There was a man involved, and he thought that the vet would have been easier to work with, except that the next door neighbor would have hated the dog. And the next door neighbor is I mean, he, knows real estate. So he was telling the seller at every turn what he should be doing. I never met him. I would just wave to him. But so he was one of those. So he was kind of cognizant of, he went with the higher offer with the escalation clause. But I mean, he kept the letters. He would refer back to them whenever we would have to, either negotiate a repair or whatever. So I don't know, it's interesting. Does it work? Doesn't it work? I've done letters a lot, especially if it's not recently, but especially if it's younger buyers, kind of, this is our first home, that kind of feeling. Well, and even, so I have a deal now. The lady, they were my sellers here. They sold, moved to Maryland because the husband's job took them there. They've been there 2 years. So it was husband, wife, and 1 son who's in high school. And they're in my age range, and the husband had a heart attack and died in March. So now she's in Maryland in this huge house by herself with her son. So she's selling the house there, coming back here. And part of the deal with that has been, I've told her story. We're going to close next week, but we had an offer on one. Here's another one. We had an offer on one, and the seller didn't even respond. And I called the agent. I said, "Are you responding?" And she's like, "Well, the seller needs to find a place to live." And I said, "Well, my buyer's super flexible. We'll let you close in September if you want." "No, the seller doesn't want to respond." "Really? Okay." So then we go under contract on the next one. And again, I tell the whole story about the husband and the whole thing, just because in both of these deals we were lowballing because they'd been on the market a while. Go under contract on the second one. And the first agent calls me back on Monday morning. Is your buyer still interested? My seller found a house. No, she found a new house. Yeah.
Oh my gosh. So and I see this a lot. Well, that's a big one. This is Kerry. So I see this a lot in
it went away. I can't see it. Where'd it go? Oh, there we go. Okay. Hang on.
So where, you know, you may be the first person that submits, right? But then they decide we're going to wait and wait for more people or I mean, I've also seen where you have your appointment at 5, but then all of a sudden, you get a call, after you can't get in the house. Oh yeah, we took an offer at 4. And it's like, but why didn't you call me to at least tell me? So I see these situations a lot where, well, gosh, because that was the same thing. Even every single property that we put an offer on, we put it on. We were the first people. And then like the next morning we would find out, oh, another one came in. And it's like, really?
So for me as the listing agent, I try to be really honest with as honest as I can be under the parameters of what my seller wants me to share with all the other agents, because again, it's still about your reputation. So in the one where I'm talking about with the 2 agents called me first in the morning wanting to know, and I told everybody, we have a bunch of showings today. We are most likely going to take offers all day today until noon tomorrow. And then I had the opportunity to go visit with the seller. And I said to him, well, how does this sound to you? I'll just put in the listing, multiple offers. Please put your best foot forward from the beginning. We're going to be accepting offers till noon on Sunday. And that's what we did. And nobody was mad at me. And not only was nobody mad at me, I had 2 backup offers.
Because I think that's where like your reputation. So when I see a lot of people, like they go to their scheduled appointment at 5 and then call the agent like, hey, we're going to put an offer in. Oh no, we accepted one at 3:30 today. And it's like no calls, you have showings. So why are you accepting offers, or why are you not even at least telling me so I didn't have to show it or get my hopes up? I mean, I see both sides, but I personally think if you have like finish out the day of
showings. Yeah. So in there were 2 instances like this recently, and in both cases, you can actually send an email out in showing time, and you can add it to the showing instructions. So I just sent an email that said, we're going to take offers until this time. I don't know if we'll ask for highest and best. I suggest you put your best foot forward from the beginning. And then you just do your best with it. The other part that's hard is, so you're even sitting at the seller's house talking about the offers you already have, and more showings start coming in. And they're like,
I get now that would be harder. I would think sellers may want to just accept an offer so they don't have people in their house.
Well, that's
quickly if they're living there, I would say.
Yeah, but then you get the seller who's like, should we wait till the next showing? And I try to turn it around to the seller. How would you feel if you were that buyer who put the offer in first, and now you're waiting and you're excited about the house and you love the house and you really want it? That's the buyer you want. So, and usually they'll go, oh yeah, I don't want to. Like, I try to get them not to drag people along, but I'm also not going to say, oh, we got the first offer at 10 a.m. Let's accept it by noon. I mean, that's crazy too.
Right. And I think it's a fine line with all of it and with everything that we're going through right now, I guess, because we're in odd times.
Yes.
But I definitely, it's been a hot topic in our groups. Just
yeah. Should you write letters? How do you handle multiple offers? So I think just as the listing agent, you have to do your best job to communicate with everybody and let them know. But I will say, as the listing agent, once we've accepted an offer, I actually don't tell anybody until the seller has signed it and we've sent it back to the buyer that's accepted. And then I send out one email, blind copy all the agents. Thank you and your buyer for your offer. At this time, my seller has gone with a different offer. If you'd like to be considered for backup, please let me know. And that's worked well. And yeah. So that's what I would do.
So I think that's a lot of good nuggets and just on what's going out there. And let's see, what do we have here? What's our activity of the week?
So for this week, pick an aspect of your life that you feel like you want to improve, that you can improve your choices, your attitudes, your actions, and make this the week to start fueling your joy and your health and your wealth. So what is it in your life that needs to change? For me, it's the same thing all the time, which is health, health and exercise. So I need to keep on that and eat healthy and when you have both of those things, healthy eating, healthy body, you have healthy mind, and it propels you to be able to work harder and better and not time wasting.
Right. And I think that goes with the words of wisdom. I picked we're the creative force of our own life through our own decisions and our own, rather than the conditions around us. And I think a lot of that goes with your mindset, with all the health and everything like that. But with all the noise that's out there right now, I think it's so easy to get sucked up into that. And one thing that I love about real estate is it's always changing, but you have to always change that direction of that sale to really thrive in different market conditions or different conditions of life in general. And I think if we can kind of eliminate some of that noise, and I know we kind of talk about that with maybe less news and all the craziness, and just kind of focus, because we can all thrive in any market, I think, that's out there. But I think it's up to us. We're the creator, of what we're going to make of this situation. And you can get sucked up into things, or, we can change that direction and keep that positive mindset and really thrive in what's going on. And I think, if you are someone who's maybe has the health, find a referral partner that has no problems going out there. At least then, you can be the rainmaker of your own business without having to be out there and doing different things. But there are so many different avenues that we can be doing if we're positive. So,
Yep.
And if anybody has anything, and we're also looking for suggestions for next week, or I don't know what the hot topic is for next week. Do you?
I don't, but I'm sure we'll figure it out by looking in all the chat rooms and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the groups give us always, what's going on, what's the hot topic, and that's kind of but we would love to hear from you. What do you want us to talk about? What's your hot topic of the week? And I guess that's it. So we're at 32 minutes. So until next week, of course, you have all the comments below. Feel free to let us know what's going on, what you want us to talk about. And until next week, wake up, kick ass, and repeat.
Woohoo! See ya.
Happy Monday.